Let us start again. Hello again. This is my second attempt at starting. That wasn't very professional.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it.
3.
Well, welcome along to the show. We had a bit of a false start there for some reason. I have to look into that. The little gremlins in the studio hiding under the desk decided to make mischief and merry. Why not? So it's Monday. It's 7 o'clock. A little bit later than that now. Welcome along, ladies, gentlemen, gender progressives. However you choose to define yourself, you're very welcome to come along and take part in our show. Every week, I have one of the world's top comedians comes on the show with me, and we talk about well-being, wellness, men's health, mental health. This week is Men's Health Week, so we're also lucky to have with us the fantastic Jim Pollard, in my opinion, the UK's top men's health writer. He reckons he's about third, but I don't know. I think he's doing himself a disservice there. So what we're looking for every week are your top tips for well-being and wellness. So do let us know what you find works for you. And just because it works for you, it may not work for other people, or then again, it may well work for everyone. So don't be shy. If you are listening and you're alive, let us know that you're there. Do give us a little hello in the comments box. You can follow us on menshealthradiostation.com, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You can listen to it on SoundCloud. There's no excuse, basically, not to have a little listen. It's probably worth just tuning in to see where it's going to go. Every week it's a bit spontaneous. That's the beauty of a live show. So if anyone's got a favourite joke, do please let us have your favourite joke. Any funny stories that you want to share, anything that's happened to you this week, anything at all that you think may be interesting, or even if you don't think it's be interesting, just put a comment in the box. Let us know that you're alive and you're there, and please subscribe to our channels, our social media accounts. So this show aims to raise awareness, like I said, of men's well-being, men's health, and we are very fortunate that Men's Radio Station is so keen to use non-traditional methods to destigmatize and raise awareness of this very important area of life. We're also very fortunate that WJ, the UK's leading road marking specialists, have taken an interest and have decided to sponsor our show. So a big, big thanks to them. So just to recap, I want to hear your joke of the week. I want to hear your top tips for well-being, anything at all you want to talk about and get off your chest. We've got Martin Davis and Sharon Jacks already in the box. Thanks for coming along, guys. If you've done anything this week, Martin, I know this week has celebrated, is it 3.5 years sober, which is a fantastic achievement. We're very, very proud of you, Martin. And Sharon, of course, great poet, writes some amazing stuff. Guys, if you've got any other tips or anything else that you think may be of help to us, then do please let us know. Put your comments in the box on Facebook, on YouTube, on all the other social media ones as well, okay? And any questions and thoughts you have that you want to share with us, with myself, Gareth, and Jim, or even with Men's Health Radio Station and our sister station, the Women's Radio Station, please do put that in the box as well. So let's get to it. The first guy we're going to have on tonight, his name is Gareth Berliner. Now, for a lot of people, if you only see comedy on television, you don't go to the clubs, you will probably think there's only 6 comedians working in the country. But there are dozens, hundreds, and each of them has got their own unique little gifts and skills. But this guy really is great. He never, ever stops trying to reinvent himself. It's very innovative. One week I saw him doing magic. I'm like, what's that all about? But he's just constantly trying to keep it fresh, keep it real. He's gone from the pits of despair to the heights of glory and back again. He's just got it all, this boy. He's got a beautiful wife, a beautiful house. He can wear any, he's got the sort of hat, the sort of head that can wear any hat. What greater compliment can I pay to him? So please welcome onto the show, Mr. Gareth Berliner. Gareth.
Hello, John.
The hat, the boot, just as if.
This is it's funny. I get so uncomfortable whenever anyone says anything nice or complimentary. But thank you very much for your very kind words.
What about your head? About the size of your head? You can wear any hat. You can wear any hat, can't you?
Look, about any of it.
That head is just designed for a hat. You just put. My head is so big, I have to wear the box.
How big is it?
Hey.
I'm a 60. I'm a 60 hat.
Like,
that's pretty big.
No, I'm really like. I remember once I was best man for a wedding. We went to get fitted out, and the guy said, "We'll have a hat that will fit anyone." I said, "Mate, trust me, this thing." My mum never forgave me till the day she died. It's huge.
Yeah, I can see actually that although I think mine is comparable, I can see yours has a squareness that mine lacks.
Square.
Mine has a dome. Yeah. Yours is like Fred Flintstone.
Easy birth, you mate. Probably just slid out, but me, no. They had to work with spoons and forceps.
11 hours of just sliding.
You can measure the size of my head by the squares on the Japanese screen behind me. That's how
I've already worked out.
I've already worked 5 across, 4 down, mate. It's not a crossword. It's my head. But there you go. Anyway, mate, what have you been up to? How are you coping with the heat?
I am surprisingly well, but I'm not far off going to France, where I think the heat is going to be a lot worse from what I understand. And I've just got some new meds that the doctor says I mustn't go in the sun because of photosynthesis with this particular drug. So I'm going to have a really fun time in France, avoiding the sun and sitting in the shade.
So how does that work? You've got to avoid the sun because of photosynthesis. Will you turn into a plant? What?
Apparently, I'm just, remember the Triffids, John? It's just, Triffids.
Is that how Berliners? Because Berliners, of course, are donuts.
They are.
How the Berliners are made?
They're also people who live and come from Berlin.
Well, yeah, there is that as well. Is that a mate thing? Photosynthesis and tablets. Amazing. See, that's what reading the science is all about, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. It's all about learning. It's all about the knowledge, isn't it?
How are you, as the host? How are you doing?
Sweating, mate. I am sweating like a racist England football fan just before the players take the knee, thinking, "Are they going to do it?" And they're all sweating. I'm sweating like that. I'm just sweating buckets, mate. Yeah. I am honestly like, I'm not an ice cream man who's only got one cone left and a queue of people. It's gushing out of me. But there you go. Tell us about yourself, Gareth. How did you get into comedy? What made you decided to become a comedian?
I truth be told, I fell into it. I think it was going to be one of those many things I talked about doing in life. When you're like someone who goes, I'm going to do this, and then you never do it, but you can dine out on I'm gonna for about 2 years before everyone goes, he never did it, did he? And stand up was an I'm gonna, and at the same time as I said I'm a gonna, my friend met a comedian, and that comedian booked me my first gig, David Haddingham. Thank you very much. And I gigged a week after I said I would do it, and it was great. And I didn't look back. And I went
phenomenal. Where was your first gig?
Up the creek. Malcolm Hardy, MC, standard thing. I got off. I thought I did all right. Malcolm Hardy said, "Well, that was shit, wasn't it?" There you go. Classic Malcolm Hardy.
Brilliant.
But very happy. The Creek had a reputation when I did it, and I managed to get through my 5. I got one heckle, which actually was a genius heckle, but at the time I didn't know it was. I misunderstood. I was wearing headphones for my opening joke, and this guy shouted out a little bit into my act, "Can I borrow your headphones?" And instead of hearing that was a clever heckle, I went, "When I'm finished with them, mate, in about 5 minutes," because I didn't know what to say.
Brilliant.
And I genuinely thought he was asking because I was so innocent.
I once did Up the Creek, which is in Deptford. Notorious club, as Gareth mentioned. Very well known for being rowdy. And Rich Hall was on. And what they would do is, on a Sunday, they'd have 4 acts doing 5 minutes each for nothing. You wouldn't get paid, just to see if you could survive. And I went along, there's 4 of us. Rich Hall, brilliantly, famously, did loads and loads and loads. And he overran, basically. So Malcolm said, I don't think there's enough time for you guys to go on. And we were all just amazed. We thought, well, what's going on here then? So he came round to each of us. Everyone was disappointed. Me being me, I said, well, I don't mind. I got to see Rich Hall for free. And Malcolm went, okay, what's your name then? I said, John Ryan. He goes, yeah, you're a cheeky one, you ain't you? You wait there. Went back on stage and said to this audience who had just loved Rich Hall, yeah, well, we're going to let the open spots go on tonight, but this cheeky so-and-so, he's a bit cocky and he's taken down a peg or two. Do your stuff. Brought me on. I went on, packed room, and I said, hey, dear, my name's John Ryan. And this bloke at the front went, bye. And then he started going, off, you fat woo-woo. And then Rich Hall at the side started going, come on, give the guy a break. Give the guy a break. Now, I picked this up in about a minute. So I went to him, could you shh? I said to Rich Hall down there, what did you say? He said, I'm just telling them to give you a break. I said, oh, you think you're good? Why don't you get up here and show us what you can do? Not just watched him for an hour. He went, what? I said, yeah, come on, let's see you up here. Should we get this bloke up? And the whole room went, yay. Rich Hall went back up, done another half an hour, smashed it. Malcolm said to me, yeah, you'll do. And that's how I got my first gig up the creek. Not for anything I did, but just because Malcolm thought I had chops.
Yeah. And you emptied yourself out of your spot, but beautifully.
Yeah, it's all up there, mate. It's all up there. So how was your first gig then? You thought at the end of it, I'll go and do a second one.
Lovely. I think because I have long-term health issues, Crohn's disease and various other things, I had found something where I could work for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, get a shot of adrenaline, feel a lot better, and not have to do a whole day's work other than writing and admin, etc. And that's literally why I fell into stand-up, because it worked with my health primarily, I think.
Okay. Are you happy to tell us about your health?
Yeah. I just covered it. I've got Crohn's disease, long story short, and as a result of lots of surgery, I now have something called short gut syndrome, which means when I'm eating and drinking, I'm dehydrating. And maybe about 20 years ago, I tried to kill myself, but I talked about that in my very first Edinburgh show. And I'm certainly not been in that position for over 20 years.
That's just a kind of little bit of a matter-of-fact bombshell, then, isn't it? Yeah, so, I tried to kill myself.
Because I don't know, I don't know any other way now. Like I have to talk about my health so much, even, every time I phone up my pharmaceutical people who supply my nutritional fluid, every single time I have to go through my date of birth, my address, blah, blah. So talking about my health has become very matter of fact. So where somebody else would think, oh my God, you nearly died. Well, if you've nearly died 20 or 30 times, it just becomes, I nearly died. And then I nearly died. And then this happened and I nearly died. I don't think about it anymore in terms of how serious it is, because I feel like I've nearly died that many times that for whatever reason, I'm not meant to, at least not for the moment. So
does that make you feel slightly invincible? Would you take risks for other people, wouldn't it? So you see a dark alleyway, do you think, I'm going down there? What's the worst that can happen?
I was just thinking that. No, it definitely hasn't made me feel any sense of invincibility or invulnerability. But it does make me feel a little bit cocky that I will get into my 50s, which perhaps is something I never thought I'd see.
What's your ambition in life? I want to get into my 50s.
Yeah, if I make my 50s, if I can make it through to 60, I'll be chuffed.
If I can make it there, never mind New York. If I can make it into my 50s, I can make it anywhere.
I'll be a happy man.
It is Men's Health Week, and I'm hoping that you'll be happy to talk about your health. Positively. Anyone listening, if you've got any questions about health as well, anything you want to ask Gareth, please do pop a question in the box. Let us know you're there. Any comments you want at all. Go on.
Oh, I tell you something positive that has happened for me in the last couple of weeks. Being someone that overindulged in kind of self-help books about 20 or 30 years ago, like overindulged so much that I couldn't pick them up for years. I've ended up doing affirmations a few times over the last week. Affirmations are when you just make a positive statement about who you are, what your place is, how you're going to be, but it's always positive. It's never like I'm really crap at writing. It's always like I am a great and competent writer, or who do
you say this to? Where do you say it?
You just say it out loud. It all sounds nuts, and I always used to think affirmations were nuts. But now, having had a year away from comedians and appreciated very much my year away from comedians, because it can be at points quite a toxic environment. You're talking about a lot of egos, a lot of narcissism, a lot of alpha males, just a lot of pressure. Or, if you're someone who doesn't want to perform all the time in the dressing room. You end up just being a shrinking violet and being quiet. So having that space away allowed me to actually, for the first time, kind of deal with some imposter syndrome stuff, look at myself, recognize my talents that I have rather than comparing myself to everyone else and kind of assuming they meant nothing. And in recognizing the talents I do have, once a day starting to acknowledge that to myself. I'm not telling the world, I'm just reminding me, you are confident, you are mentally in a good position, you are a strong person, you are this, you are that. Really important. I had no realization before now that actually it was really helpful to kind of own your sense of self.
Fantastic, mate. So look, before I bring Jim in, let me just quickly go to the box and explain a couple of things. The lady in my life, Tasha, is going to occasionally comment through my Facebook account because she don't use Facebook. So if you do see a message there, like John Mason has just said, "Evening, lovely Tash. Hope you had an amazing birthday." Gareth, he's not complimenting you and your Tash. It was Tasha's birthday. So you're with me. Anyway, so do let us know you're there. Put your comments in the box. Do subscribe to the channels and do keep abreast of what's going on at Men's Radio Station. As I pointed out, it is Men's Health Week. It should really be Men's Health Year because don't just suddenly start taking your health seriously 1 week of the year. But there's one guy who has really gone to great lengths to try to improve the health of mankind. This guy is going to save us all. His books are phenomenal. His writing is second to none. He really has got a way of getting a message across very succinctly. Like I say, I'm saying he's top men's health writer in the country. He's going to happily take third or probably fourth now because they have time to think about it. But he's an amazing bloke, very talented man. Please welcome Mr. Jim Pollard. Jim, how you doing, mate?
Wow, thank you very much, John. That's okay.
Men's Health Week.
I'm sure I'm going to save everybody.
You're going to save everyone, mate.
Yeah.
What Men's Health Week? What's that all about?
Well, Men's Health Week, as you say, it's not just supposed to be 1 week in a year, but 1 week in a year we'll take that kind of thing with a lot of guys. As you know, 1 man in 5 dies before he reaches the age of 65. So what we're trying to do is reduce that number. That is quite a shocking statistic, really. 20% of guys don't make it to retire, and we want to do something about that. So this year for Men's Health Week, we're doing a thing called the Can Do Challenge.
The Can Do. That just sounds very northern. It's Can Do. What can you do?
Well, it's because it's like you've heard of the 5 ways to well-being, John, which is connecting, being active, noticing, and then there's learning and giving. So those are the 5. But we changed learning and giving to discover and offer. So that got us Can Do.
Why did you do that? Discover and offer. Why?
Because it's got the D and the O, you see, for Can Do. So connect, active, notice, discover, offer.
Sneaky little acronym there.
It's all thought through, mate.
That's why you're the top man. That's
Absolutely,
why. We are in awe of you. What made you get into writing about men's health then? Where'd that come from?
I got into men's health because, like most guys in my 30s, I really didn't know very much about health and I wasn't particularly interested in it. And then I got cancer, and obviously, just seen you told everyone I'm a Spurs fan. So you've completely blown the whole thing.
I know you get sympathy.
Anyway,
it's an Arsenal fan of you.
So anyway, I got cancer, and I started taking a bit of an interest, as you do, as I'm sure you did, Gareth, when you got ill. You start taking a bit of an interest in these sorts of things. And I wrote a book about what it was like to have cancer in your 30s, and I've been writing about men's health ever since. And that was 20 years ago, and people are still dying. So obviously, it hasn't quite worked yet.
I just love the way the two of you just casually go, I tried to kill myself, and today I told myself that I'm a good person. You all had cancer, I wrote a book.
It sounds like...
I've hurt my thumb today. Have I mentioned it once? No.
Well, we're glad to hear that, John. Yeah. You've only hurt your thumb.
I'm
But it's-
inspired by you both.
It sounds to me like Jim's done a lot of processing in the same way I have, and he's talking about having his cancer kind of 20 years ago. Jim, was that?
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah.
And I just think it sounds like, because you've been involved in men's health as well, like I certainly find that being proactive in how I'm dealt with and why we're doing tests and what that test is and what that drug is massively empowering. Actually, what I find hardest of all is on the other side of the fence from the doctors and the professional team. It's trying to get them into the habit of realizing you're a professional patient and you want the information, because they will choose to tell you nothing. They'll just tell you you're going for a test. And I'm like, why am I going for the test? And I've even learnt now, there are certain, there's a blood test I have on the ward with the blood sugar test. And they'll do that whenever I go onto the ward when I'm there with a line infection, which is in my chest. But whenever I have an infection, I'm not using my fluid. And the only reason to do the blood sugar test is because I'm using my fluid. Yeah. So I let them one time do it for a week. And then after a week, I went, why are you doing this? And they went, because you're on that fluid. And I was like, but you've just been injecting me for a week taking my blood for no reason. You don't need to. So now I refuse. So it's about empowering yourself, because I don't know, I find it really important. I get dressed all the time when I go in now. I'm never in my jogging wear or my pajamas. I won't be a patient, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that absolutely makes sense. And I think the medical profession is not good at dealing with people with long-term conditions, because, like you were saying before, you have to keep repeating all your information, don't you? You have to keep saying, and then they tell you what's wrong with you. And you think, well, I know this. I've been doing this, dealing with this for years. And you know more about it than a lot of people that I'm sure that you're seeing, and they can't kind of treat you just as an equal. They find it incredibly difficult to do. And I can understand that there's maybe some good reasons for that, but I don't know.
I would like weirdly, I would like a panel. I spoke to them recently because I've had another incident happen and another complaint due. And don't get me wrong, the NHS has been amazing. It's saved my life a million times. Yeah. I'm not, but what I would like to see is a deliberate use of patients within the system so that there wasn't a patient liaison service, which is really designed to cut litigation for hospitals and mitigate. We know that, and it's not to actually fix the problem for the patient. And what I'd like to see is a patient panel where we could actually have doctors understand, this is how you made this person feel when you denied them knowledge or whatever the issue might be. Because I feel like they don't get it. They just go in front of a panel, they'll say sorry, no lesson learned.
Yeah. Gareth, is it not a case though that then as comics and performers, do we not have a platform where we can raise this?
Yeah, definitely.
Clubs and venues. Would you do that? Is that the sort of thing you do in your act?
Yes. I mean, I talk about it, but I would find it hard to just go on stage and try and make fun or light of how mad it is in the NHS. Because inevitably, when you start laughing about it, you just get angry in the end. So I would find that quite hard. I'm trying to get better at that. And there are some things that I will be talking about moving forward that I've never felt comfortable to talk about on stage, but I'm going to start talking about.
Jim, is that a common thing, Jim, about reluctance to talk?
I think that aloofness that Gareth's just talked about from health professionals really is an important part of men's health, because we don't like to be treated like we don't know what we're talking about. We don't like to be made to feel second class by someone. It puts everybody's backs up. I kind of think it puts blokes' backs up more than it does women. And, so it's a real massive barrier to people kind of seeking help. If if you've been treated like that once, it's going to put you off going back again, I think.
So what's the answer, Jim? How do we get guys to take their health more seriously? You said that 1 in 5 men won't make it to 65. It seems to me that most men on hearing that will think, well, I'm only 30. That means I've got another 35 years.
Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? And then everyone will say, yeah, well, my Uncle Alec, he died at 97 and he smoked 50 bags a day and all this. Everyone knows those people.
Do you know what's terrible, John, is as soon as Jim said 1 in 5, I was looking at the three of us and thinking, I hope it's one of the other two.
Jim, is the message getting out there? Are men taking their health more seriously? Is there any statistics that support it?
Yeah, and I think what we know is that men are interested in their health, and we do care about it. But sort of traditional masculinity kind of tells you you're not supposed to. It's like you're not supposed to be interested in that. You know, as a guy, you should be, just get ploughing on regardless and all that sort of stuff. And I've been doing some training this year with guys of all sorts of different age groups. And it's interesting that even in the younger guys, they're still getting these sorts of messages. They still think that they're not really supposed to talk about their health with each other. So things are changing, but I think it's changing more slowly than we would like. You know, there's something really, really strong about that kind of aspect of masculinity, about being strong and silent.
But I wonder, Jim, I feel like coming off the back of the pandemic, there's a level on which, because we've shared like a collective trauma, have enabled more men after a year of like not working or not having a new relationship or whatever. I feel like that longer time has allowed some men that might not have otherwise talked about feeling lonely or, struggling, have to, I've had conversations with people who wouldn't normally admit struggle. And we're out there being honest now.
I think that's probably true, Gareth, and hopefully that will help, because everyone's seen what's happened, and we have been talking about mental health a lot, so it's kind of feels okay to talk about it at the moment. So hopefully, guys will do that. I mean, that's another thing that we're pushing in Men's Health Week. The fact that we're in a different situation now to the situation before the pandemic started. So therefore, you're bound to feel a bit different, and it's good to talk about it. If you don't feel comfortable about doing something, talk about it.
Yeah. What about this link between then because physical health and mental health go hand in hand, right? But people tend to separate the two, don't they? And then I think that's part of the problem. You have a broken leg, we'll go, oh, what happened to your leg? But if you've had a breakdown, people avoid you. They're scared of you. Maybe if you've had some sort of mental health problem, you should have to colour one side of your face blue or something. And then everyone can go, oh, right, guys had a problem. What's that for? What's that all about?
It's not blue face. He's quite depressed, isn't he?
Oh, he's bluey. Let's get bluey. But that's what men will do, though, isn't it? We would instinctively mock, have banter, backstroke bullying. But it's how do we start tying those two together? Because if your statistics, Jim, are that men are reluctant to go to doctors with physical health problems, then what hope is there for mental well-being?
Yeah, I mean, this is turning into, it sounds like we're bashing the doctors, but the part of the problem again is that doctors will, make those massive divides. They put you into these different boxes. You go in about with a broken leg, John. No doctor's going to talk to you about how does that make you feel that you can't go and do the stuff you used to. It's just so that barrier is kind of there in the whole way that we approach healthcare, unfortunately. So it's kind of up to us to break it down by talking about it amongst ourselves.
I think one of the things you've got to remember about doctors, GPs in particular, is that they have amongst the highest rates of alcoholism, divorce, attempts on suicide, gambling problems. When I go to my doctors, when I sit down, and she'll always go, how are you? I say, never mind me, how are you? And I remember going once, after about 10 minutes, I had to go, look, enough about you now. All right. I was just being polite. But there's that thing, isn't it? It's that there was this great Rabsy Nisbet, like most presenters, I guess, and people in the know quote Shakespeare, Einstein, or the British Medical Council. I prefer to quote Rabsy Nisbet. And I always remember an episode when he went to the doctors and the doctor said, right there, how are you? And Rab went, there's nothing wrong with me, but I thought you only ever see me when I'm ill. You might like to see what I look like normal. Is it still that them and us thing? Because we all talk about this toxic masculinity all the time. I'm not so sure about it myself.
When I was talking about masculinity earlier, John, I wasn't saying it was toxic. I was just saying that it's a fact. I don't think it's a... I certainly don't think anyone should be ashamed of being a bloke or the things that they feel about being a man. But it's just these kind of constant messages about being strong and silent aren't really doing us any favours.
And even if sorry, Jim, but even if you look at a green room, John, you know, a green room is the dressing room that the acts are in at a comedy club before they go on stage. It is traditional that the banter in a green room is normally the kind of jokes you might not tell on stage. And if you're in a green room saying, I feel pretty ill and pretty sick, the chances of getting sympathy, pure sympathy, as opposed to what are you fucking moaning about, or getting the piss taken out of you for being sick before, is much higher than anyone going, shit, man, I'll go and get you a hot drink and a blanket and wrap you up nice and warm, shall I? Like, I wouldn't ever expect that. And
but is that for us then to change that? Is that I was on a cruise ship for we've done a crossing 8 days. We went across the ocean, and there were 3 comics and some musicians, and we all got on, and every day you'd have a walk and a laugh and a joke. It was really nice. Then on the 7th day, we docked in Barbados, and the following week's replacement acts got on. But we weren't getting off till 8 o'clock that night. And I went for breakfast, and I saw the 2 comics I'd spent a week with, and next week's 2. And next week's 2 were just proper belittling and bantering with the previous lot. And when I sat down, one of them said, who's this then? And one of the guys said, oh, this is John. He's a comic's been on all week. And the guy said, well, how have you put up with these 2 all week? He's like, he eats all the cakes, and this one's an alcoholic. I said, well, you know, actually, we've had a really nice, positive week. And if you know, I've never met you before, but if you want, we can talk about nice things. We don't have to banter and put each other down. Just, you know, there's plenty of other things we can talk about. And then one of them went, God, blimey, what, you a counsellor? I said, no, do you know what? I ain't got time for this kind of nonsense. Anyway,
you see, the guys who take that attitude that you're taking, John, are few and far between. And I bet from what Gareth was saying, what you guys are saying before, in the comedy scene, they're fewer and further between guys who are going to talk like that. It was great to hear you talking about Up the Creek and Malcolm Hardy earlier on. So I mean, I imagine
did you used to go there, Jim?
I did. Back in God blimey, was that the late 80s?
Yeah,
early 90s. Like
yeah. It was up to 2000s. I did that gig for the first time 2004 or 2000. Right. I think.
But so what I wanted to ask though, in terms of then culture, is it a British thing? Like I know Gareth is off to live in France for a few months. Jim, I know that you lived in France. Are the French different?
Do French guys talk about their health more?
Yeah.
Dunno.
That's very profound, Jim. I'm not going to lie, I was expecting something a bit more than that. Like, well, I thought you'd at least try and be French in your answer.
Come see, come start.
Actually, update from the field from my wife Kirina, who has only just come back from France, and she said, no, actually, the men wouldn't even put on sun cream, and it was boiling hot. It was skin cancer hot. It was hot, you know.
Okay, Gareth, that's the sort of weather we should have on after the news. Now for the weather with Gareth Bellena. It's skin cancer hot. Okay?
That's Australia. That's Australia on any given day.
Brilliant, love it. Jim, what was your experience of the French?
My experience, I really liked being in France. One thing I like about the French is that the English, we try to pretend that we're not going to be offensive, and we apologise a lot and all that sort of thing. The French don't bother with doing any of that. They're quite happy to be as offensive as they want to be. They ain't going to apologise. So then you know exactly where you stand with them, and it's much easier. See, I've always struggled with this thing when someone will say to you, look, no offence, but you want to go, right, just stop right there. Okay? Yeah. Because this is not going to end well. Okay?
Do you know what? I spoke today to it's really weird. Like I try to really manage my care, Jim. I have to communicate with a lot of people that are involved in my care for the rest of the month. And I spoke to my team. I phoned up my team who do my nutritional fluid and stuff today, and I've given them over a month's notice to get everything ready. And today, of course, shit's hit the fan. People didn't have my list. I went into panic. But when you talk to these people, I'm now done. Like I just have to go. I don't want to hear, like they started reading the excuse. They started giving me a list of why everything's been done. And I just kept going, honestly, I don't need to hear why it hasn't happened. Let's just talk about moving forward from this point. Not, you know what I mean? Why waste my time with that?
Yeah,
Let's just.
that's right. We are where we are. What are you going to do about it?
What about younger men, Jim? Is there any research that shows that maybe the attitudes are changing amongst men?
Well, so as I was saying before, John, I think attitudes are changing, but I don't think that they're changing quite as quickly as we might think. You know, I still think that there's a lot of pressure on guys to be guys. So, in terms of research, don't know. I don't know. But my personal observations, based on working with men of all ages, is that it ain't changing as quickly as we'd like it to.
So when I first started doing comedy around health and around men's health, the first project I did was something called Hurt Until It Laughs, which came out of the Leicester Comedy Festival, run by an amazing bloke called Jeff Rowe, who wanted to use comedy and the arts in unusual directions. And we went into what was called hard to reach groups. Okay, so we went into like gay and lesbian centre, Afro-Caribbean centre, a Jewish centre, Islamic centre, a white working men's club, loads of different places. And I just remember being really struck with the fact that it didn't seem to matter.
No,
it did not seem to matter one bit what the covering on the male body was. Gareth, do you remember we done 1 year? Gareth
Bernie Grant.
Bernie Grant Centre for Black History Month. Okay, so it's Black
I'm very
History
proud
Month.
of that gig to this day.
And
even
then me
though
and Gareth as their main show. And then afterwards, we had, loads, dozens of young black men coming up to us going, mate, that's just awesome that you're able to speak about them kind of things, right? And then, especially Gareth, because his story, although he goes, I tried to kill myself, then I had a cup of tea, it's actually a very powerful story and an amazing turnaround how his life's come. But the amount of guys, I particularly remember one bloke, Gareth, saying to you about how his mate had taken his life, I think that year or that month, and he just didn't know. And I just remember looking across thinking, it doesn't matter where we are, how do we get that message out there that, one, we need to talk, and two, we need to kind of take care of ourselves.
How do you deal with those sorts of conversations, Gareth, when guys are kind of coming up and talking to you about, taking your own life and stuff?
Sure, I think I'm pretty grounded because I've done a lot of work. Obviously, I've had psychotherapy, I've had a lot of mental health support, and I have a greater understanding of it. I mean, what I have found in people speaking to me if they've lost someone through suicide, where it has helped them is help them some level of understanding, because when you're in that position, I mean, obviously it seems like a terribly selfish thing to do, to take yourself away from all your family and give them that pain. But in the irrational mind of the suicidal person, you justify everything to relieve everyone of the pain of looking after you.
Yeah.
So in your own head, you're helping everyone out, and everyone's happier if you do that, because you have to justify an extreme act. But I'm very honest with blokes that I talk to, and if I ever find anyone, it's the same as anything I post. I always try and post links to Samaritan's Mind, etc., so that I'm not scaring anyone, and people know there is backup or support if they need it.
I think that's really important for guys as well, because it's kind of easy. John's done a lot of work with in mental health. I've done a lot of work in mental health, and one of the main focuses is to try and reduce the number of guys who take their own lives. But the fact that you've kind of been there and got a sort of genuine lived experience of it, I think really, really makes it a lot easier for you to
I think
to reach guys. It's with us, it's almost theoretical. I mean, obviously we talk to people, but you know what I mean? Yeah,
I've been asked to talk a few times for that reason, and talk to some men's groups, things like that, because it's just coming from another bloke, and it's not coming from a doctor, and it's coming from a bloke who's very comfortable and very honest. And, I'd like to think never say never, and I assume I will never go down that kind of dark road again, but never say never. I don't know. So all I can do is keep being honest about it and open, and know that if I ever went to that kind of level of darkness again, I'd be asking for a lot of support. And I do now. Whenever I struggle with my mental health, I reach out to either friends or the services that exist just to, give myself a check.
So what would happen, Jim? We did a show called Cracking Up. After I did my men's health project, which is me and a guy.
I remember that show, John.
Gary. Yeah, we did Cracking Up, and because I've got no lived experience of any mental health problems, I thought, well, I need to get some people that'll be comfortable talking about it. So you remember, Gareth, we went out. So I took about 6 people out for dinner to sort of get a feel from them. An amazing woman called Maya Twazici kind of was behind the project, and we kind of chatted on that. And of the 6, 3 of them just felt they couldn't do it because it was just too much for them. And then the night of the show, another one pulled out, and Gareth went from doing like 5 minutes to ending up doing like half an hour and holding the show. One of the 6 actually took his own life. I think it was the following year. So it's very real. It's just a really, really massive, and the thought of him having to go on stage, although he wanted to do it, he couldn't do it. Gareth, however, just went from strength to strength, and night after night, as a performer, you want to be the best on the bill. You do your best. You get a round of applause, a standing ovation, and then Gareth would come on and just nail it. It just would take it from laughing to crying. And
I think I think I did have I had a massive advantage on the other people who didn't do it, in that I'd done it for 30 days in Edinburgh telling that story, and that was where it was hard. Like in Edinburgh alone, your show is your responsibility, and every day I'd kind of go through the dark part of that story. In the show, I had to get the audience to a dark place so I could bring them back out of that dark place. And that meant every day I kind of went through the dark space again and came out the other side. It was quite something. And I think when I got to working with and for you, doing Cracking Up, doing it once and knowing I'm not doing it again the next day, that's easy. It's when for me, it was doing it every night. That was hard because you had to go through kind of those feelings again to get out to the other side.
I mean, listening to you talk about it now, Gareth, I can see how that doing that Edinburgh show was really good for you. But before you did it, whatever made you think, oh, this is going to be the best. This is how I'm going to deal with this. I'm just going to go up to Edinburgh and I'm going to.
Do you know what?
Talk about it in the bear pit of Edinburgh.
Well, I think I became a comedian after I'd done it. But what was lovely, without going into it now, but my story had, what happened to me during my suicide attempt was laughter was a big part of it towards the end. And laughter is kind of what knocked me out of my senses. And so it was, I always knew when I started in stand-up, I knew my first show was like my big story and my health and everything. And I knew that talking about that and being honest about it was going to make for a good show once I got out the other side. So, it seemed natural. But also, John will tell you, when you're a comic, it's like everything bad is good as long as you give it some time. So anything now, I just go, well, this will be all right. This will be a show in 2 or 3 years. I don't want my wife to divorce me. I got no plans to have an affair or have her leave me for another man. But anything tragic she might. She just said she might. But anything
for another woman.
Yeah. Anything tragic in your life, though, if you're a comic, it's the real positive is that you can creatively turn something so dark into a something positive. Because I'd say with John, what we did with that show Cracking Up, I'd like to think is, I'm fairly certain that we informed a bunch of blokes who maybe hadn't thought about it and might think twice,
Yeah. John, why did you decide to do these shows? Because you always say to me, oh, I've never had any mental health problems. I don't know if that's 100% true, but you do say that.
Mate, yeah, I do. Apparently, it's I've got a mate who's kind of looked at me from top to bottom, and he seems to think that I have resilience. So any traumas I've had have given me resilience, and then consequently, I don't react. I don't do disappointment. I don't do letting down. I only live in the moment. So right now, the only people in the world are you two. I don't.
You were
think
pretty
about
disappointed when I said yes, I'd come on, John. Be fair.
I was ecstatic. I was like, what if we wear that plunging neckline that you sometimes wear, that jumper? No, but that's the thing. And so I find it difficult because I've never, ever wanted to lie in bed all day because I thought of getting out of bed weighed heavy on my mind. I've never had that. I've never been. I'll tell you, this is honestly true, right? I went, when I did Hurt Until It Laughs, I had to do a show in a gay and lesbian centre. And I ain't got a problem with that. And they were very welcoming to me. So, nice. And one of the kind of lines that I use when I do my stand-up, because I like to try and raise awareness of things sometimes, I say, look, I'm not gay myself, but that might just be because I haven't met the right bloke yet, which is a kind of, nice little intro. And then I'll find someone in the audience and go, well, it's not going to be you, mate, is it? I've not saved this for you. My first time is going to be with like someone, and then I suggest some names and get, yeah. So I did all this. Anyway, at the end of the show, guy come up to me, he goes, mate, that was just great the way you talked about health and people dying. It was brilliant. I said, oh, okay. He goes, do you want to have a beer? Like, just to genuinely, no, let me get you a beer. I said, look, you know what? I'm going to go now. He goes, well, you can't go now. And then I kind of thought, what? I'm like, no, listen, look, I'm flattered. But he went, don't be a dick, mate. Look out the window. I looked out the window. What do you see? I said, well, there's, I don't know, 3 or 4 lads. Okay. And what do you think is going to happen if you leave a gay and lesbian centre on your own right now? What do you think is going to happen? I said, nothing. And he goes, you may get like queer bashed. You may get attacked. To which I said, don't be ridiculous. I'm not gay. And he said, but they don't know that.
They don't know that, yeah.
Jim, I'll tell you what, mate. I've been in football fights. I've been in loads of really rough situations in my life. But that walk from that building to the train station was one of the most uncomfortable experiences I've ever had in my life, because I did occasionally kind of keep looking over my shoulder thinking,
so those guys hanging around outside were hanging around for queer.
Well, but they hang around, and then if someone comes out, they may or may not, or whatever. I don't have that feeling. I'm straight, white, heterosexual, right? I go to bus, and what? I walk down the street. I don't think someone's going to rape me or beat me up because I'm white. And I just got that little tiny little insight.
Got a small insight, yeah.
Well, is this what it's like being a woman, being Jewish, being Islamic, being gay, being black, And so I'm always trying to learn from whatever experiences I'm going through. But that really did stick with me. And to have that every day and all the time. So I don't know. That feeling I had, was that anxiety? Is that what it feels like to feel insecure when you're out and about in public? I don't know. Well, that stunned you both, didn't it? But
I'm just trying to picture you in a football fight, John.
But do you understand though? It's that thing of, I'm a bloke. What am I going to run away for? I ain't scared. What am I scared of? But in that instance, I was like, well, what if and me being me, my creative mind's going, what if I did get battered? I wonder if it'd make it on the news, if I'd be on the telly, comedian and writer John Ryan was the victim of a gay attack. My mum would be home going, hey, always knew it. Watching news going, hey, knew that was all a front, them children and the marriage thing.
Yeah.
But you guys, when you're gigging, don't you ever get guys who want to have, a go afterwards? I mean, does that not happen?
Yeah.
But that doesn't feel the same, John.
I once done an army gig, and there's like about 800-900 squaddies in the room, and one of them was just really angry. And I remember him saying, as soon as I came on, he goes, "Yeah, listen, mate, you say anything to me, I'll knock you out." I said, "Okay, well, thank you for letting me know that, because I really wouldn't want you to knock me out." He goes, "Go on, say something." I said, "No, I think you've made it very clear that you'll knock me out, so thank you." He goes, "Well, you pussy." I'm like, "Okay, let's just workshop this, mate. If you knock me out, there's no show, and then all this lot, I'm probably going to knock you out." He went, "And?" I went, "Okay, let me try a different approach. You're clearly bigger and stronger than me. You could have no problem knocking me out. But I reckon on a maths exam, I'd smash you. So let's not do maths or knocking each other out. Why don't we come up with a middle way?" He goes, "What you got in mind?" I said, "Let's see if I can make you laugh, and then you decide in 20 minutes. He went, "All right then." Anyway, after the 20 minutes, he came up to me and goes, "That was good. I still want to knock you out though." It's that thing of, it's that laddish shit. It's very adversarial stand-up. And it's how you cope with that. And Gareth, he shows his vulnerability. So I think he kind of... You're on mute,
Gareth.
Okay, as an example of the fact that I'm open with my vulnerability to the comics that may or may not pay attention, I can remember, naming no names, but this is an example of our culture and the toxic nature within it, is I remember standing around with a comedian or going up to him when he was talking to a few people, holding court, couple of pretty girls, and he never asks about my health. He's never taken me aside, got in touch to say, I heard you're in hospital, how you doing? But in front of the girls, he asked how I was. I told him I'm fine, thanks. And then he went, no, how are you with your guts and your bowel and everything and your Crohn's disease? So what he did was he negged me in front of girls and used my vulnerability against me.
Yeah.
But I learned that. But I know now he is an insecure man. And that's why he needs to do that. I've got a lot better at dealing with the toxicity of men in that I recognize now there's a lot of very vulnerable men who think they're alpha males. There's a lot of insecure alpha males out there. That's what alpha, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alpha is that bloke.
Comedy's changing a lot, isn't it? Because I was just thinking about sort of when I used to first go to comedy clubs, it was all blokes like that. You know, obviously now it was all white men then, and now there's a much broader range. There's women and there's people from different backgrounds and stuff. So is comedy kind of changing, and is that the way that society needs to change?
Yeah, I think society could do with. I mean, you know, I still see the vulnerability of society. I still see. You know, my wife has dwarfism. I still experience other people othering her, and she still experiences that prejudice. So I see it still going. I like to think that we're in a position now, as I said, particularly again coming out of the pandemic, there's a lot of people that need a lot of mental health support after the year we've just had, and there'll be more because the furlough will come to an end. So there'll be more people that will need support. What I would like to see come out of the pandemic, which I think we all would, is a huge investment within the NHS in the mental health services. Because doctors, you know, I was getting some mental health support when the pandemic kicked off, and they very quickly pulled that away. Fortunately, I understood because it was pulled away to help support the doctors and nurses who were going through an incredible trauma. So I'd like to think, you know, we were just making inroads in mental health before the pandemic struck, and we have a health service that's been really knocked, you know, taken to the cleaners. I would like to think coming out of it, we really make more of an effort collectively on mental health, not just of men, but of women too.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, Gareth, mate, I want to thank you for giving up your time. So, GarethBellena.com. Anything coming up that you want to recommend us?
No, do you know what? I'd recommend my wife because I don't know when it's going to come out.
You're not pimping your missus out, Gareth.
Shooting this. What?
I recommend my wife. I
should have been very clear with my wording there. I got nothing big to plug. Just, you know, check out my website, see what I'm up to. Follow my Instagram because I'll be doing a lot of stories from France. And as ever, John, thanks for having me. And Jim, what a pleasure to meet you as well.
Very nice to meet you, mate. Have a great time in France.
I'll do my best, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure you. But the lockdown thing's still a bit heavier there than it is here.
No, it's all right because I'm working. I'm
doing
my test. There's no quarantine at the other side, so it's all right.
Brilliant, mate. Well, stay safe, Gareth, man.
I will do. Look after yourselves, gentlemen.
Thanks for Kieran as well. Yeah, cheers. That was Gareth Bellena. He's an amazing guy, Jim. His story is incredible. He's a bit humble as well, so it makes it difficult sometimes talking to him because he went from trying to take his own life to kind of 15 years later, he's on Coronation Street. He's on EastEnders. He's on Doctor Who. It just goes to show that even when you hit rock bottom, there can be ways out. And I think that without trying to sound patronising, suicide can very often be a permanent solution to what's invariably a temporary problem. But can you see that in that moment? You know, I don't know what the future has in store for me and what, you know, how I would react, you know, given like a bad health diagnosis or a traumatic life event. Yeah. But, you know, and it is mental health week. Tell us about your stuff that you're releasing this week then, mate. What's
so, I mentioned the Can Do Challenge. Okay. Encouraging people to do something different each day from each one of the 5 ways to well-being, something different each day. So connect is what we've been doing today, and so I'm connecting with you guys on here. Then tomorrow it's about getting active. Wednesday about noticing stuff around you. That could just be going out for a walk or doing some mindfulness or something. Discover on Thursday, so learn something new. And on Friday, give give something back or offer something to someone else. And all those 5 ways to well-being, as you know, John, they're kind of tried, tested, and well-researched methods that will make us all feel just a little bit better. And, in terms of dealing with mental health, just feeling a little bit better can be, it's the difference between the blackest of holes and a shade of grey, which you can deal with, kind of thing. So I do think it's really important. But you don't want me talking about it all the time. You also want me to tell you about the new penis manual that's coming out.
Just about your penis book, Jim.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Sounds a bit sleazy. Just about your penis book.
Size isn't everything, it's called, and it answers all the most common questions that men have about the male tackle. All of that in 36 pages. So size isn't everything in every respect.
And how do people get a hold of that? Hey!
That is on the Men's Health Forum website. So you can Google Men's Health Forum, or I don't know, can Tash post in the chat the link maybe?
Yeah,
that
we'll
I sent
do that.
you
We'll
before?
stick the
I
link.
can't. I haven't figured out how to get into the chat, so I can't post it. So yeah, you can go to the Men's Health Forum website and you can download it for free as a PDF during Men's Health Week, or you could also buy a hard copy as well, which is $3.95, I think.
Okay, well, that's fantastic, mate. Just before you go, then let's just quickly get to it. The football, is that helping people's mental well-being for England to do well, Scotland to do well, Wales?
I was wondering about it. So we've been doing a bit of stuff with the Scottish alcohol prevention. What are they called? SHAP. Anyway, I can't remember exactly, but it's a Scottish alcohol prevention charity. And I was wondering after the Scottish game whether they picked the right week to start launching their campaign. But all will change if Scotland beat England, won't it?
I think it will. I remember reading somewhere, it may be something that you wrote, about how after England beat Argentina on penalties back in '98, heart attacks in the country went up by like 12% over the next 3 days.
20 on the day that we got knocked out in '98 on penalties.
Yep.
England got knocked out in '98 on penalties.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Heart attack admissions went up by 25%.
Here you go.
But that's that was a repeat of research that was done in '96 in Holland, when Holland were knocked out on penalties by the French. Heart attacks in Holland went up 50%.
Wow.
So it goes to show the English are just a little bit more philosophical.
A little bit more.
Penalty shootouts. We know we're going to lose. So it's only 1 in 4.
Isn't it also for days afterwards the levels remain high?
That's right. Yeah.
So I guess it's all about then this kind of feel-good thing. Again, it's seeing the link between physical health and mental health, and just seeing how, all right, well, you're watching your team lose on penalties, you'd think, oh, okay, it's over. But actually, that effect on your heart for days afterwards.
Yeah. You've got to be fit to watch football. Obviously, that's something I've learned as a Spurs supporter.
Yeah. I'm doing a big talk tomorrow for Edinburgh Napier University, and I was kind of hoping to use that statistic to go, look, just get over it, let it go. It's happened. Drop it. Don't worry about it. But Jim, look, I really want to thank you for coming on tonight. I will post links in the comments, which will be up, and it will also go on the website for your books. Absolutely fantastic pleasure to have you on, mate.
Fantastic to see you, John. Yeah, anytime. See you soon, mate.
Brilliant. Get on soon. Take
Cheers.
care, mate.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Tash. See you.
So that was Jim Pollard, editor and author. Just amazing. Just wrote a book about the penis health. Now, penis health, what's that got to do with mental health? There's a link. There's no good mental health without good physical health. For your air crew, you need ground crew. Everything is linked, and we need to kind of put more emphasis on it and take more care and concern over that. We've come to the end. Thank you all guys for listening to me live, and those of you who have downloaded or are listening on SoundCloud. One of the reasons we're able to do this show is because Men's Radio Station is really committed to raising awareness, destigmatizing, and getting people talking about mental well-being. And WJ, the UK's leading road marketing and high maintenance company, are really keen to have this as part of their thinking community. So together, Men's Radio and WJ and myself, John Ryan, we really do want to get the conversation going and try in non-conventional ways to get people talking about mental well-being. We want you to be as comfortable talking about your mind as you are your bodies. So when you see your mates tomorrow, say to them, how's your head? How's things up there? And tell them how you're getting on too. Thanks ever so much for listening. Have a great week, and we'll be back next Monday. Take care. Good night.